Evening, viewers and listeners. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Elombah television tonight. I think this should be the 7th or 8th in this series of interviewing aspirants who aim to be the next governor of Anambra State come November. And our guest tonight is Reverend Godwin Chukwuma Okonkwo, an APC Governorship Aspirant in Anambra State. Reverend, we welcome you to our program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Right, sir. Can you please introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners?
My name is Reverend Godwin Chukwuma Okonkwo, native of Elombah in Agrata local government area of the South Senatorial Zone. An accountant by background, a public servant who spent 34 years of service with NNPC and retired last year after attaining the position of Managing Director NNPC Capital, and a priest of the Anglican Church. Thank you.
All right, so can you please tell us where your educational journey, starting from primary school?
I was born and brought up at Enugu. So my primary school started at Enugu. My secondary school, my hometown, Elombah, I got high school to be precise. My university, I had a stint at Nsukka campus and then moved to Enugu to do accounting. Enugu campus of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, before I joined the NNPC. Before I joined the NNPC, my first port of call was Deloitte. I did ICT & Co. before joining NNPC in 1986. Of course, I left Nsukka in 1984. And while in the service of NNPC, 1991, I was sent abroad to their London office. And during the Abacha time, we moved to Paris. So I worked in both London and Paris office and came back in year 2000. And when I came back, I worked in Benin, part of the ENI RGP Energy, before moving on to be the finance manager of Brazil LNG. While as finance and control manager of Brazil LNG, I was now made the general manager in 2009 and brought back to the head office. From head office at Abuja to NAPIMS, at the GM Finance head of NAPIMS, from 2012 to 2015 when the current regime came in. I was now promoted the Group General Manager Finance of NNPC. Within 2015 and 2019, Group General Manager Finance, Group General Manager Debt Management Office, Group General Manager Federation Account, and then later Managing Director NNPC Capital, the position at which I retired last year.
Right. If we may ask, that means you graduated in 1984 and joined the NNPC in 1986.
Yes.
So that will presume you did your youth service in 1985.
1984, 85 at NTA Zone C, Badon.
Well, why I picked interest in this narration is that knowing how difficult and knowing how people aspire to work in the NNPC, and you are able to get into NNPC immediately after your youth service. How did you do it? We would like to know.
Well, it is, we had somebody from my town, Engineer Ngui, is working at the NNPC at the time. Through him, through Dr. Briggs, who headed HR at the NNPC at that time, I attended the general interview with everyone, and I was called to join. But before they called, I was at Deloitte, I did an ICT & Co. It took me time, really. It took me time to decide to join.
All right. Seeing that you... All right, go ahead, sir.
Because you know what it is, Chief ECTA then, who was a senior partner in the firm, who assisted me entering the firm, wasn't happy that I was going to public service. But I told him then that my take-home pay couldn't take me home. At the time, I was earning 331 naira per month. The NNPC was paying 554 naira per month. And I was a child, first son of 10 children. I had to bring bread home. He was afraid I wouldn't be able to take my professional exams, but I assured him I will do. And of course, 1988, 89, I qualified as a chartered accountant. So today I'm a fellow of the Chartered Accountants of Nigeria.
All right, so I'm just scrolling down your CV now. One can really say that you are a well-read gentleman. And I'm just looking at your educational and professional qualifications. I also know that you are a reverend. So how would you like to be addressed? As a reverend, as an accountant, or that is, what do you consider your main vocation in life?
Yeah, for now it's reverend, because in that you have everything, what money cannot buy.
Okay. I also know that you headed some very, very strategic departments in the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. You served a lot of in their overseas branches. There is this general perception among Nigerian public that NNPC is a citadel of corruption. First of all, do you agree with that perception? And if you don't, if you do, how were you able to navigate the shark-infested waters of Nigerian oil politics?
You know, in every group of 12 disciples, there's always a Judas. There may be some bad eggs, but for sure, most of NNPC staff are not as corrupt as people think. I must tell you, in terms of record keeping, among the government agencies, NNPC is the most organized in terms of record keeping. I can tell you that. And then you're asking, how was I able to go through that and see came out the person I am. The person inside is what determines. Forget the reverend thing. There are some people who go by the name reverend, but the things they do, you close your eyes in shame. It's the person inside. The Okonkwo inside has not changed. I'm still the same person. Reverend is just a title to foster the race to heaven. You know, it's not that the man inside has not changed. So even if you take me to the Nepal of that time, I'll still come out. I'm very happy that God being on my side. I walked through the valley of NNPC.
Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this appointment first of all, the one I'm looking at now. As the managing director in NNPC Capital, you are in charge of you are the general manager. The general manager Federation account reports to you. General manager Debt Management Office, general manager Capital Management, general manager Budget and Projects. We go down as the managing director of NNPC Capital. Apart from being responsible for asset register maintenance, you also monitor budgets, project performance, debt, and so on. We go still down. We see that the National Assembly, a lot of very strategic Nigeria agencies do report to you, or you liaise with them. We are talking of. So how were you able to relate with these agencies without, because you must have come under a lot of pressures to compromise at certain points in your professional career. How did you handle it, the pressures?
You know, when I walk into the auditorium of revenue mobilization, some of them, you know, I don't understand how so much. But my teachers will say, this crazy man, this you are crazy guy, but he knows what he's doing. They know who I am. I go to the chambers. The important thing is that what they ask for, you give them. I don't need to wait and come back. Because the things are, when you are telling the truth, you don't need to think, you don't need to go back and come back. You don't need to come to mood and think of what you said yesterday. When you know the truth and say the truth the way it is, without fear or favor. You know, what guided me when I was in NNPC, this urge to cover my head first, before the child I have on my back. It guided me very well. I never wanted to do anything that any small boy who qualified yesterday will come and say, oh boy, did you actually do this thing? No, that was a good guide. And of course, the God aspect of it. Will I, there are things you do. Will I enter the altar of God and look at people and lay hands on them when I have this burden on my head? God forbid bad thing.
Let me read this one out. I'm still interested in this. In your CV, you said, my position also required and enabled me to liaise with the various committees of the National Assembly, Governors Forum, and the National Economic Council. What does this liaison with what does it involve? Our listeners may like to know.
Of course, you know about NNPC. NNPC is one of the major producers of revenue that is shared every month by the states, local governments. Therefore, whatever comes from NNPC, every time that this quarter, NNPC is not reporting the full, NNPC will holding back this and that. And therefore, governors, of course, they are doing what they are supposed to do. The oversight function must make sure that NNPC is returning the actual thing they're supposed to return. So they invite us over time to say, NNPC, why did you withhold this? Why did you withhold that? And because Federation account is under me, I have to accompany the GMD, or sometimes I go alone to answer questions on the figures submitted by NNPC to the Federation.
All right, I will soon move away from your sojourn in NNPC, but please forgive me to ask, I will not miss this opportunity so that our listeners will know. And when Goodluck Jonathan was in power, the then CBN governor alleged that I think $22 billion or whatever amount was missing, and that is one. Also, under this Buhari administration, we are also told that hundreds of billions of naira were not remitted to the Federation account, especially this year. I think in May, it was very, very problematic, or April.
Yeah.
All these allegations, are they true?
Of course, they are not true. You know, they just like football. When the Eagles are playing, everybody becomes a coach. Somebody who understands this NNP system. Now we are publishing our accounts. In fact, the thing started with me. This monthly publication started with me. When the then DMG and the Minister of State came in, it was under me. Now, the issue of billions, you know, somebody sits on his office and multiplies the barrel of oil produced. It doesn't take care of what you do to our partners. It just multiplies it by the ruling price in the international market. And that's what he expects from NNPC. It doesn't think of, before you get revenue, you must deduct the appropriate cost. Most of them don't do that. And they've forgotten the issue of subsidy. Recently, I saw a paper they are going to reconcile. NNPC will tell 6.something trillion. For where? In this place, and the government is still like that. They've forgotten the subsidies are authorized by government. You only take off the government for what are that 6.7 trillion we are talking about? 4.056 is already a subsidy. You now go back to the issue of pipeline vandalism. And by the time we take away all that, what is remaining is what NNPC takes in. And don't forget, most of the project of the government are financed from this fund. The gas projects, the LNG gas project, the brass LNG, and the OK at the time. Even the gas developments we do now comes from there. Priority projects NNPC hold on behalf of government. NNPC pays from there and remits to government the net after these expenses. Sometimes you have this balance issue between the Federation and the federal government. The Federation states wants more money, but you must continue to lay grounds for future revenue. You don't share. In fact, let me tell you, what we are suffering now is what I was saying when in 2012, when I was in Athens, when we go to the National Assembly to present budgets, without considering the economic implications, some of them just cut it because it's an NPC. You don't do that if you don't invest in the oil industry in the years to come. Because it's not something you put and get back to now. It's what you put now, the revenue comes from 2 years, 3 years up. But because they were just cutting, now we are suffering low production. Even with high prices, we don't have volume to maximize the benefit of high prices. We don't even now produce up to our OPEC ceiling. And how can we continue like that? So the thing is that when we generate revenue, it's common sense, it's only logical that you deduct the costs of producing that revenue. So you can continue to produce. You don't share everything. If you share everything, it means you are eating your seed along with the bread. And in terms of harvest, you go to the farm, then you are a man. You are an Anambra. It doesn't happen anywhere.
Okay, so finally, what do you think about this issue of subsidy? It has always been very controversial throughout all the administrations. Yeah. Should Nigeria still maintain subsidy on our petroleum products, or should we simply allow market forces to determine the price of oil products?
Subsidy remover. I'm one of the proponents of subsidy remover. Who enjoyed the subsidy? My father never had a car, he had a bicycle. Most of the Nigerians who they said the subsidy is for don't have cars. And you know, if you what we consume the subsidy will be more than enough to build 2 refineries. Do you understand what I'm saying? Will be more than enough to build 2 refineries if you started in time. But you know, governance is not 2 plus government. 2 plus 2 don't always give 4. The government may want to plead the populace and do that, but the right thing to do is remove it right away and plow back the what we spend on subsidy, either to build new refineries, or to maintain the existing ones, or to build infrastructure that will have some economic multiplier in the system and jumpstart the economy in various states of the Federation. So I'm one of the proponents of removal of subsidy. Thank God they did. Although they are staggering it now.
All right, let's now turn to why we are here, Anambra governorship election. People seeing you now will be asking, what is a man of the cloth doing in politics?
In fact, sometimes I ask myself that question. Sometimes. Let me tell you, some 12 months ago, when I retired, if anybody tells me by now I should be running up, be all over the place, you know, talking to people, pushing down, people telling you that this is white when you can see it's black, I wouldn't know that I'll be here. But look at here I am. I am. Politics. It took time. Some of my reverend gentlemen even thought that this man has gone to hell. What is he doing with politics? But we cannot continue to pray alone when you can do something about that. Hezekiah prayed before rebuilding, starting the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem. When you are praying and God gives you a vision, you follow that. God cannot come down in physical form to change the society with us. We have to change the system by going through that system. So staying in the altar and praying alone is no longer acceptable. We must bring Anambra to what our future generation want it to be.
Yes, sir. But many people, a lot of us here will tell you that politics is a dirty business. Are you sure you will not soil your clean hands by indulging in this dirty business, so to say?
You know, our God moves in a mysterious way, his wonder to perform. So you can call me the dust man. I've come to clean the system. By the time I finish as governor of Anambra State, most of the people who jump up and down now will not be encouraged to come back. Because it will be so open, so transparent. People will know what is there, and they will not like to spend their life or kill anybody to be governors. It will be so open, they will not want to come there. We have come to clean the system. And if Anambra people want a good system, an accountable system, an inclusive system, yeah, I am. They should send me. I have the courage to do the right thing.
But do you have the political experience to do the right thing?
Political experience. Once you are doing the right thing, everything will fall in line. They want somebody they can trust. You set the stage, you don't tell them, that's what I tell people. You must be mindful of what you say in your family devotion every day. Because children learn by mimicking. You tell them something else and do something else. If they forgive you, God will not forgive you. So I will lead by example. When you are doing the right thing, politics will be secondary. People across party line will follow you. Everybody wants a good thing. It's those who want temporary satisfaction that go the shortcut.
I'm sure many people will think that doing the right thing is not enough in Nigeria, especially in Anambra State. We remember P2B went through the crucible. If I may use it as an example, when he won the first time, he was rigged, he won, he came, he was impeached, fighting. A lot of governors was fighting battles all over the place. You fight with the godfathers, you fight the National Assembly, you fight with your party. How do you intend to cope with this lack of political, with this being a new person in the Anambra political scenario?
You see, that's why I'm not all over the place. I'm being very careful who my supporter is. I want to be responsible for my action and inaction. I rather borrow to finance myself than get somebody who does not have the good interest of Anambra in mind to sponsor me, and they start to follow here and follow here. That will not happen. I'd rather stay at home and serve my family and serve the church than allow myself for somebody who I'm not sure. I will not do that. I will not do that. But just like Peter, look, I don't foresee that this thing will be easy, because those who do not want the good thing for Anambra will make it so difficult for people like us. But God is not sleeping. We will get there and we clean the place.
But the question is, well, it's not, will you win? Without the support of these critical stakeholders, how do you hope to win?
You know, that's what I found out. A lot of people call themselves stakeholders, don't have a stake anything. How can you be a stakeholder when you have not staked anything? The people who do the vote. It's supposed to allow some of these stakeholders. I've tried to see them. Look, I went to see somebody. They said, go and see this person, a big stakeholder. And I you know, my humble self, I was able to afford a carton of Shandong. I went to see the man. Okay. And the man says, before I start talking, I should break cola. I called my PA to go and buy cola outside. I know what he was saying. To go and buy cola for me. He said, no, that this person put down 1 million before I started talking. I said, look, I don't do that. I must know what I'm buying before I pay. I must know the value you're adding to my project before I pay. He continued gallivanting. I said, please, I have other meetings. And he now put me down. And at the end of the day, I found that doesn't have anything to add. I operate much above his level. They're not added value to what I'm doing. And some of those, they are actual stakeholders. You understand? They are those opinion influencers who are there. Those who put their money for the good of the state. But they are also political drivers who are out there. And I pray God every day that I don't enter into such hands. I'd rather stay at home.
Well, one of a good politician told me once that Anambra State is a state where if you're coming to contest for the governor, you may say, okay, I have $5 billion, for example, to contest for this post. Then someone else will bring $10 billion just to stop you from getting that post, rather you get another person. So how do you have the billions to counter all these billionaires who will try to stop you from clinching that nomination?
Because their confidence is in their money. It's somebody who has walked up to the level of managing director in an NPC. If I say I'm a poor man, I'm being ungrateful to God. You understand that? But I'm contented with what I have. By the time people see what I'm bringing to the table, there are people that have genuine money that will come out to sponsor this project for the good of the generations of Anambra people to come. I know that. I know that for sure.
All right. Now, what would you say is the most important problem facing an Anambra today, an Anambra man? The most serious problem facing him, which you are going there to solve as a governor?
Well, the problem of Anambra is vast, but one of the most serious problems facing Anambra is opaqueness. There's no openness and disunity. The issue of security came recently. This government did well. There was security before. But now there was no longer openness, especially after the second, during the advent of the second term. We lost focus. No clear development plan. If you don't know where you are going, how can you get there? That's the major problem facing Anambra people.
Do you have a manifesto with which you will campaign for this position?
Well, I have a few things outlined, but really, you know, I went to a place, they were talking about, I told them, look, you may call me the dust man. Dr. Chu Okonkwo, my friend, used to say, that all the lofty ideas have been put down by some renowned professors. You need a man with the courage to dust up those manifestos and implement for the good of our people. Of course, I have an outline of what I intend to do, but the important thing is the courage to implement them.
In that your outline, please, can you tell our listeners what is your number one priority if you become governor?
The number one priority, of course, is sustainable economic growth, following a clear development plan. And then cleaner, greener environment, and a morally balanced society. If you look at today, most of our elderly settlement are moving down to Enugu because they believe Enugu is more serene. Have you gone to Onitsha recently?
Yes.
You know, some of us believe that development is just bright, tall buildings here and there. You cannot pass, you cannot have fresh air. Even in our, have you visited home during Christmas? Even here at the club, you stay 2 hours in the go slow. People are now selling, into the road, encouraging into the road, approaching to the road because they are selling. Maybe if by the grace of God I get there, like Peter will be, I'm sure the first 2 years, people will not like me much because I will make the environment to look a bit cleaner for people to inhabit. Make Anambra a place people would like to invest in and live in.
All right. Of course, everybody would like to live in a clean environment. Are you able to take us step by step how you intend to accomplish your objectives?
Of course. One thing again, I found out that people just go into government without any laid down policy or plan. No reliable database. It's a very important thing. When you plan on a non-robust, non-reliable database, of course, your projection will not be realized. We will maintain a data warehouse of robust database upon which you must know what we have and the composition or the population, the demands and the consumption.
Let's take, if we can take you here, we must first know what we have. Do you have an idea of what is the IGR of Anambra State at the moment? Internally generated revenue, monthly, the monthly IGR.
I don't have the figure in my head.
So how will you know whether what we have will be enough for you to accomplish our objective?
Of course, I know it will not be enough. Let me tell you why it will not be enough. I am sure that not up to 50% of what is collected goes to the government coffers. If everything that is collected goes to government coffers, we will not be in terms of debt where we are today.
So how do you intend to block those leakages?
Digitalization of government revenue generation and collection. And through that digitalization, we also provide jobs for the youth. Digitalization will reduce human intervention. People who collect the revenue, you pay to them what you do to them, but you ensure that what is due to government also enter the government coffers. If you do that, we'll cut off on all this multiple taxation up and down. People will stop, you go to my market to buy something. You have toll gates here and there. And you come out, most of those doesn't go back to government coffers.
All right. Education is very important. Obviously, you will agree.
Yes.
And you talked now about data, working with data to know what you need to do and whether you have the funds to accomplish that. Do we have the number of one? If we don't, then we move ahead. Do we have the number of public primary schools in Anambra State, private primary schools, public secondary schools, private secondary schools? Do we have their figure now? Does anyone know?
No, the figure, no, my team working on that might know, but that will come to surface after the primaries.
Okay,
one thing is sure.
Yes.
One thing is sure. Education, we're looking at education that is technically and technologically driven. Not just that, our education will include provision for our disabled and challenged children within the society. I don't know whether we have any, my second son is a challenged, and I know what we go through in the house. So I make special provision for the challenged children, either physically or disabled in one way or the other. And then talking about education, we make sure that education will bring to bear that will make our people employable. If a teacher na DMGS, na DMGS. Education that will make you employable, that can help you to self-employ. I was talking about digitalization. We will create ICT centers of excellence, starting with the senatorial zones, and then it will dovetail to the local government areas. We have a supply chain that will train and develop our people to information technology experts. And before you know it, there will be specialists in data programming, and we begin to export IT to other areas. And I assure you that will earn us dollars through remote engineers, through procurement of remote engineering and artificial intelligence. These are the fastest way to keep our youth busy. And at the same time, solving the issue of corruption in our governance, in our government processes.
Yes, this is quite interesting. In fact, none of my aspirants have mentioned this, but since you mentioned it, let me ask a question on that. You know, the Indians are known, have kind of cornered this ICT industry of working remotely from India for big corporations, whether here in London or in the United States. And if we want to introduce that in Anambra State, for instance, you need regular power supply, you need technology hubs and so on. If we don't have those infrastructure, how does that idea work, remote engineering?
Now, let me tell you, what our system requires is a regime that can be trusted. We have NGOs, even Anambra people outside the shores of this country, who have what it takes, the know-how and the capital to make it happen. But once they can see somebody they can confide in, these things will come in. These things will come in. It's true, and of course, we will liaise with the discos to ensure stable supply. We can go the solar system, but because of the small paucity of funds, the state may not do it alone. We can go out and get grants. Once these people see that they can trust this regime, our journey will be less, our suffering will be less. They'll bring in those venture capital and help us to get to the promised land.
All right, thank you, our listeners. Our guest tonight is Reverend Godwin Chukwuma Okonkwo, an APC Governorship Aspirant in Anambra State, asking questions on how he intends to achieve his program if he becomes the governor of Anambra State. He's one of 14 other aspirants in APC seeking to clinch the party's nomination ticket next week. Sir, we have 14 aspirants in APC gunning for this position. What do you think makes you stand out? What do you think makes you capable of clinching the nomination ticket of APC in Anambra State?
You know, competence without character is not valuable. The competence with character gives resounding value. I have the competence, I have the character, and I have the courage because I'm accountable. He who obeys the Lord of God will find it easy to obey the Lord of the land. Even if I'm not afraid of that will put me in jail, I know I'm a slave to the God I serve. Ndị bịa na nwaka na-aga n'ụzọ echote a mee isi ya ọ bụrụ maka isi ya ma ekutu ụzọ mana ife afọ anya ka na-eme gịnị ka ọ na-asọpụrụ. I'll be able to go between the line. I'm not too sure. Well, let me talk about myself. I know about myself. I feel, and more importantly, I feel I have the confidence of the Anambra electorate. Not just Anambra, not just the APC people, but the Anambra electorate.
So if you have the confidence of Anambra electorate, people will be asking, do you think that APC will really win this election in Anambra State?
If I don't think so, I will not stake my integrity. I will not stake who I am. I'm a priest of the Anglican Church.
But people will tell you for free that APC is an unpopular party in Anambra State.
We have come to wipe off that thing from their face. I can tell you that my coming into the system has gone a long way to reduce that concept, that cognitive map that APC is this and that. They look at the individual person Time has come, and people now are wiser. They look beyond the party and look at the individual. And what is important is the individual. What can he offer? What can he offer? Party is just like a vehicle through which to get to where you're going. And this, a trial, will convince our people. And again, APC is the vehicle that will integrate Anambra to the center. Will not enjoy full dividends of democracy if you are still boxed out there at a corner. We must be part of the mainstream. We must be part of the mainstream. And we need somebody who can sit out there and look at the eyes of our colleagues in the center and say, yes, this is good. Oh no, this is not good for my people. If you are part of a system where you have nobody to speak for you of what you use that system, we need Anambra to be part of the mainstream and Anambra State for the good of our people.
Okay, we thank you, sir. Listeners, you'll be able to ask your questions in the next 5 minutes. My next question will be, one of the problems a lot of people have identified in Anambra and in the rest of the Southeast today is the security challenges posed by the clash between Fulani herdsmen, local farmers, villagers, and now ESN, the Eastern Security Network of IPOB, have now been thrown into the mix. Do you see that as a challenge? And if you do, how do you intend to solve that problem, sir?
But it is a challenge. You know, when a thing starts growing, you don't nip it in the bud. It will blossom into something you cannot control. The signs were there. The signs were there long ago. Now, as some people say it's unemployment. No, it's not entirely unemployment. It's a youth restlessness. No. There are some fundamental issues each party is addressing. And as a governor, I will protect my people. I'll be a father to all. I will protect my people. I'll be father to all. We must guide our borders. If the governor here did the right thing, the ECN will not come up. So I will go down to the grassroots, find out what these guys are complaining about. We discuss with them. We don't do everything with the barrel. And once they can trust you, they will fall in line. And God will help us to do.
All right. My last question will be, IPOB came into being because of their belief that Biafra is the ultimate solution to the problem of an Igbo man. And so it has caused crisis now. Do you see the agitation for Biafra as a problem in Anambra State? And if you do, how do you intend to assure them that Nigeria is the right place to be for the Igbo man?
You know, let me give you an example of a broom. When a broom is together, you cannot easily break it. But if it's single, you can easily, there is advantage in communion. There's an advantage in unity than diversity. But that does not remove the right of each individual to express an opinion of what he wants within the bounds of the law. Do you understand? Within the bounds of the law. I will protect my people in everything just and lawful. It depends. There are so many ways of getting to nature. I can go by bike. I can go by keke. I can even take a private jet or Lexus. The important is to get to nature, but you will look at the one that's more efficient way of getting to nature, and we follow that. We need to come together and this negotiation and discuss with our friends, our children, our brothers in IPOB, and fashion out, because they are fighting for not their individual interests. Not their individual interests. They are looking out for the interests of the Igbo man. That's what they are doing. But the way they are doing it, we need to come as a body, as Igbo people, and fashion out the way that benefits us more. That's what we will do.
Thank you very much, sir. We've been speaking to Reverend Godwin Chukwuma Okonkwo, an APC Governorship Aspirant in Anambra State. There are questions from our viewers. Let's take the first question from Mazi HTM Okoye. Mazi, take the first shot, please.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Reverend Okonkwo. My first question is with regards to our culture. This goes particularly to you because you're a clergyman. What do you think of our culture?
I'm the only chief Reverend Okonkwo. I was the chief of the town before I became Reverend. What does that say to you? It's not all our culture that is immoral, that is against the worship of God. There's the ones that have idolatry in them, of course, you cannot have two gods. But those who have just normal relationship between man and society and has nothing idolatry in it. As I told you, I became a chief of the town, traditional chief, before I became a reverend. So what does that say to you? That tells you who I am.
Okay. Politically, how would you go about explaining the standard in which to judge your administration? How would you describe the standard in which you want people to hold you accountable?
Well, I worked through a system for 34 years. If you mention Okonkwo or you take a walk through that system, it really says who I am. Transparent, accountable person, openness, and of course, I'm a good listener. I listen to shades of opinion, but that doesn't absolve me of responsibility of the actions and inactions that come from that my position. So I want to be seen as a regime that is open and accountable, a regime that works within the bounds of the laws of the land. Somebody was saying, okay, I hope you don't change. In that government house, there's something that changes people there. That thing will not touch me because I'm covered by the blood. I'll be who I am. I always tell our people that I will consult, I will respect our elders, I will honor our fathers in God and our traditional fathers, but I will obey God. Because at the end of the day, it's me that will go to jail if I misbehave, not anybody. It's me that will go to jail if I misbehave.
According to your manifesto, where does health and security come in your manifesto? Health and security, where does those come in your priority?
Of course, health is very important. If you look at now, we have so many health centers overgrown by weeds, occupied by lizards and snakes. It's not a must that every town in Anambra must have a health center. We must have the number of health centers we can manage. Health is very important in my manifesto. But first of all, I'll make the ones we have functional. I went to General Hospital Club the other day, to the mortuary. There's no even way to get to the place. No road to get to the place. The same hospital I was going to when I was in secondary school. What has happened? We are supposed to be improving. We're supposed to be improving. But because people don't plan based on data, we don't project that the population is here, this thing today, to be this other one tomorrow. And you don't manage our resources, our expenditure within the resources we have. We must continue to give contracts, not backed by the funding sources. That's what creates this. We must invest from the net flow we have. I will not go there and throw out projects so that the company will say, no. I must look at what we have. Where are we today? What the position of what we have? You know, there must be a cash flow. What we do must be based on what we have. It must have funding sources, not to scatter everywhere. Every community have health center, general hospitals that are not funded. If you go to hospital every day, they tell you typhoid and malaria. Typhoid and everybody survives typhoid and malaria because they don't have good equipment to do the test. So I will make sure, first of all, equip and properly staff what we have before we go into new major ones. When I was in NPC, I was talking with the Germans. NPC wanted to bring in, with the Germans and bring in good hospitals so that we stop, and the EIA, to stop this immigration to overseas for treatment. We didn't get it to fruition before I left NPC. I already asked them to study Anambra and see how that can happen. And of course, funding will be another thing. Because they trusted me, we will have a conglomerate of people and benchmark what they are giving us from what happens elsewhere and have specialized hospitals in our place. And these people will be coming here for treatment. What is not, look at, you have a provision of private clinics. Why? Because our general hospitals are not working. And some of those who have those private clinics are those who are supposed to be in those general hospitals. There should be discipline and sanctioning. And people will take, Anambra will take the pride of his place as it used to be.
Lastly, what is your vision, say, for the next 5 to Governor?
As I said, it's built on sustainable economic growth, something that's sustainable. Economic growth, not bam, today, damn, today, something that is sustainable. A clear path, a clean environment, a humane environment, and morally balanced and secure environment for Anambra people. We are somebody can wake up and be proud of. Our youth will stop migration to endangering their life, going through Libya, say they're going to Europe when the thing is here. You've forgotten, I worked in an NPC office for 10 years. I got various jobs when I was to come back in 2000, but I said, no, the thing is here. Some of my colleagues who stayed behind, today I tip them, I buy them lunch when I go to UK. The thing is here, we all shall come here and salvage this place.
Well, thank you very much. The next questions will come from Patrick. Patrick, can you please ask your question?
Good evening, everyone. Good morning from Far East here. His Excellency,
Sir,
I'm very grateful that we are in this, our present. First of all, I wish you good luck. As a party flag bearer, let me say, as a party flag bearer, you know what is happening in our country, Nigeria. If you don't beat them, you join them. We have used, let me say, bribing as a traditional something, particularly in Nigeria. Now, in this case, now, peradventure, APC give you the ticket, which I know that they will give you the ticket. And in some places, or even in Anambra State or in Nigeria in general, if you don't bribe or do one thing or the other, evil something, because Africa promotes evil more than good thing.
no.
Yes, frankly, Africa promotes evil. If you don't do evil, there is no way they will regard you. Then, as a clergyman, you need to do certain things. As a clergyman, if you don't do, it means that you are not the right candidate. Now, how do you cope on this? Because I know that you are a clergyman, and being a clergyman, you took an oath when the bishop ordered you as a priest. Now, if you don't bribe or do anything evil act, they will not regard you, or they will not call you a right candidate. Yeah, now as a man of God, how do you overcome this?
Thank you.
I said it before, I will live by example. Once you are the governor, you are up there in the hill, people are watching. I will live by example. And there will be sanctions. When we do project, there will be project sanctioning gates to ensure that this thing happens, that this thing happens. And the process of digitalization will reduce appreciably human intervention. And if peradventure somebody becomes too greedy to enjoy, to be involved in fraudulent acts, of course, you go to jail. You go to jail. And that will teach others a lesson. Do you understand what I'm saying? Some people, before they enter, they're really thinking about the second term. And in so doing, they try to please the godfathers and this and that. No. If the people think this man did not do well, I walk home, I take a walk. People must learn to take a walk in this country. But small ripples of water make a mighty ocean. First person does it, the second person, during the Diagbo, this country will live their disciplined life. When you go to banks, we queue. Why? Because the man was firm, he was focused, he was doing the right thing. And Nigerians are aligned behind him. I live by example. And I will not hesitate to punish within the bounds of the law if I need to.
All right. Do you have Patrick? Or let's take another question.
Number 2 question.
So,
number 2. Sorry.
I hope it's the last one.
I don't know.
Okay, just ask one more question. Let's move to another question, please. Our time is going.
Then on number 2 question. During this campaign, how are you going to convince people as an APC flag bearer? And if you don't bribe them during the campaign or give them or share money, and that is what I'm saying, they will not value or vote for you.
Yeah.
No.
Because if you don't bribe, because out of giving them money means that you are bribing people to vote for you, which is against the will of Almighty Creator.
I think I've got the question now. Thank you very much. Right.
Now, when I invite people for a meeting, when they go, I give them transport to go back. And I pray over it, ask them, and say, God, this is from my heart. Out of what you have given me, may every family enters, may it solve problems. It's from my hard-earned money. Of course, ask them. I don't give what others will give them, but when somebody, I give to meet a need, not to share. I have nothing to sell to them. Who I am is enough mark, it's enough a good product to them. My joining this party is beginning to change the narrative. Look at the registration they did. I can tell you it increased registration by up to 30%. Because they said, this man, he preached APC, and those who worked closely with me, go and do some due diligence. They say, even in APC, we have somebody who we can trust. And that will go a long way. They will chop those money, but I can assure you they will vote for me. Saturday is coming.
All right. Next question. Tango, please. You can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Reverend,
Yes, sir.
as we are coming to practice the governor of Anambra State, do you see Anambra as a rich state or a poor state? First question. I'm not against you coming to politics because being a reverend does not stop you being a politician. Even Jesus Christ was a politician. That's why he got against the rogue politician, Pharisees. And he didn't rob it.
So your question is whether he sees Anambra as a rich state or a poor state?
And another question, being a reverend, can you robbing for a good thing that will come for Anambra? Because robbing is a bribe. A bribing in English, in other languages, robbing. Can you rob it for any good things? Any good thing that you know that Anambra State needs? Can you rob it for it?
Now, on the first question, Anambra is not the richest, neither is it the poorest. But Anambra has a lot of potential. The key thing is for us to maximize or to optimize the little we have and make it to bear good fruit. Do you understand? That's what is needed. The financial discipline, the small one we have, don't just sit back and continue managing it, but be proactive and create wealth. Be prudent in doing that. And you see the economy grow, will get us there. Now you are talking about lobbying. Whatever is good for Anambra, I will go there and debate it out and negotiate with my counterparts. Politics is a question of give and take. Some people say it's a question of who gets out.
So you will lobby for good things to Anambra?
Negotiate. I will negotiate with my colleagues, but I will not part with money to give them to do that. I will let spirit argument reign. I will negotiate. You can call it lobby, you know, that's grammatical. But I will negotiate in favor of my people.
All right. Mr. Nebu, please, your question.
Thank you, everyone. My question is...
how many questions do you have? Let's see.
Only one question.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Welcome, Reverend. As a Reverend, we are happy to meet you here. But my question is, from what you said, first of all, as a Reverend, you let us know that you are called by God. And many other candidates would also say the same thing. But my question now is, because you have worked, you said you have worked somewhere for 30 years and you have experience, and now you are retired. And my question now is, now that you are retired, why do you want to be a governor? When somebody is retired, is supposed to be, and you are still a reverend. Being a reverend and being governor, maybe with your age, how are you trying to cope with all these things? Thank you.
Now, I am 61. Let me start from there. I'm 61 this April. And the issue of reverend is serving God and man, serving God through man. So being the governor of Anambra State is a service to God, coming to bring down the dividends of democracy to the people of Anambra. God cannot come down in physical form to do that. He has to send some.
Reverend, I'm sorry, I think we missed your last statement, or is it me?
Okay. No, I said, okay, it's interesting. I said, is being a reverend is serving God and serving people, serving God through people. As a governor of Anambra State, is service to God and humanity. It's part of my job as a reverend. God cannot come down in physical form to bring dividends of democracy to Anambra people. He has to do it through one of his children. He has to do it through people. And here I am to do it on his behalf, to carry out instructions.
All right, we thank you very much, sir. Dr. Hyginus, please. Dr. Hyginus Namde. Did you mute yourself again? I think I asked you to unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, thank you, moderator. Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, sir, for making yourself available to intervene with your brothers and sisters in this forum. For me, it's like I'm in a church, because for all the words that are coming from you, it's just like sermon. But I want you, sir, to address this, my first question, in the practical terms. Anambra State has been adjudged to be one of the states that have a lot of out-of-school children, especially the male child. In a practical terms, how can you unbundle the 6334 system of education that we have in the country to accommodate most of these our male children that most times could not finish JS3? That's number one. Number two, the population of Anambra State are made of youth mostly, and most of them are found in one thread or the other in terms of commerce. And throughout the country, Anambra State is one of the areas that they say they have high commercial activity. But it's also perceived in some section of the country that we have not reached our potential in terms of industrializations. Have you, before you decided to come in and govern us as Anambra, as a governor of the state, how can you make Anambra State an industrial hub? I think these are the two questions in practical terms. What are the things we can do in a short term and long term? Or do you feel we are okay by what we are now? Thank you, sir.
To start with, looking at the academic curricula, I said we make it to be technically driven. It's not just people going through handouts and passing out. You make it technically driven, people to let some handworks within that curricula, so that even if you don't finish, you must have learned a technical thing to do. Even if it is shoe mending, even if it's a sewing, whatever it is, it will be within that curriculum, and you get a certificate for it. Everybody is not equally gifted. Some are gifted technically in electrical works, or repairing and servicing. Some can be lawyers and whatever. But that within that curriculum, you draw it in a way that it has some practical content. That before somebody steps out to do something, he has some level of education. He has a sound mind and can employ in practical terms. Now, coming about industrialization of Anambra, of course, yes. Part of the things we do with the youth is most of our youth have very lofty ideas, but they need encouragement. My regime will provide seed capital. I understand there's something that they do now, they give each town 20 million every year. And I tell you, that's the quarrel, that's the cause of the quarrel between the PGs and the traditional chiefs. That can serve as seed capital for our youth. And my regime will interface with financial institutions to make sure that our youth have access to cheap venture capital, like we have in tiger nations, and they grow from there. Small, that we have some multiplier effect in our local governments. And of course, that brings me to the issue of local government councils. Why can't the government conduct local government election? If the money is meant for local governments, go to them. The multiplier effect of the small investment they do, we create something for our youth to do. And when they do that, the multiplier effect of that continue the cyclical development growth. These days, I know they have too many, what they call SAs or whatever. People, they pay salary who don't have a table. They're not adding back anything to the system. In my own regime, people earn their pay. Because when you earn your pay, it has some multiplier effect in society. You have to be doing something, giving something back. And again, there should be clusters, cottage industries. Our farmers, you can aggregate them into cooperative societies. Our mechanics into cooperative societies. Our transporters into cooperative societies. And that way, you can improve what they do when you address them as a group, not on an individual basis. There are things to be done, but somebody must look away from the high, aggregating rockers and just like what people are doing these days, just like bringing them huge money and putting in a pillowcase and putting your head on that. That money will not be multiplied. No matter if you pray from morning till night, that thing in the pillowcase will not be multiplied. You have to let the thing work for you. And we do that by conducting local government election and providing seed capital to our youth. Which when they have creative ideas, we provide seed capital and help them to have access to cheap venture capital. We will provide guarantee if we see that they are doing well. They will not only become employed, but they become employers of labor themselves. That will go a long way. And we talk about our waterways. I will work with the authorities that to canalize the Niger. So through the Niger, promote product movement south to the north and to other areas. and to other areas. We thank God we have an airport now. With my regime, we make it more international. We expand that. If Anambra is part of the government in power, a lot of things will come this way. This is politics. Let us not doubt that. If we are part of the mainstream, they will open more for this state. And a lot of things will begin to happen. Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir. Dr. Charles Omoridan, please, your question.
Good evening, Chief Reverend Godwin Okonkwo Okonkwo, sorry, for addressing us on your aspiration. I just wanted to take you on your ICT and software engineering policy. From my experience, it takes about 3 years to train people to become professionally proficient software engineers. How many professional software engineers do you plan to train and help into employment during your tenure of office? Which state or country module have you studied or consulted that inform your ICT capacity enhancement policy?
Well, I can see you are an expert in that. That you already provided yourself a job when I become president. I will employ you and other profs like you to do that study country by country and provide a model that will be suited for our state. But I can tell you through that, we create 10,000 jobs, which will earn in 10 years' time, will provide about $1 billion income to this state.
Dr. Charles, are you satisfied with your answer, or do you have a follow-up?
Well,
because I find that question interesting for us to learn too.
Well, I was expecting.
I'm already talking to some guys in Boston on that. They've done preliminary studies and draft reports. And by the time we come out from the business of primaries, we go into detailed report and look at them, and we'll be there to the campaign, and then we'll talk to detail of what you should do. But for sure, that's one of the easiest low-hanging fruit for employment of our youth.
Yes, I agree. It creates employment potentials, but the West, in the aftermath of COVID-19, are going to be facing huge unemployment. And you said that you are going to encourage or enable Anambra trained engineers to secure jobs in the West. How do you intend to reconcile this dilemma?
No, those who are not technologically inclined will be shipped to agriculture. They will shift to agriculture. Everybody must not be a software engineer. I'm an accountant. I'm not a software engineer. My father is a farmer, but here I am. The product of my father is a poor farmer. Those who are aligned to engineering, follow engineering. How much? There are some countries that don't even produce oil. They don't produce food. But it's the IT, information technology, that they leverage on that makes them rich. Why not Anambra? With the commercial center we have in this place, and that will become an area of great ICT within Nigeria and the African sub-region. We have our people in US, renowned profs in those areas. And once they have a regime they can trust, they will come home and replicate what they've done for the white man in this place, for the good of our people.
All right, thank you. Our program is coming to a close very soon. Let's hear from Cam Ezekiel, please. Your question?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Reverend Okonkwo. Listening to you is like a bit of fresh air, and I really want to commend you for deciding to jump into the fray. I mean, it's not all that people say that bad things happen because good men or good women stay silent. So I think it's really commendable that a Reverend with your level of expertise and level of capacity is deciding to jump into the fray of gubernatorial campaign in Anambra State. I think my question, I know I'm listening to some of your answers, and though they seem simple, I think I see very complex things behind them. For example, the level of trust. I'm speaking to you from the United States, and I know that people might think that it's easy to just say if there's level of trust, but I really believe in it that if people who are in diaspora or Anambrarians and other places in the world have some kind of belonging in the state, it will be their potentials will be unleashed, and the governor or whoever is the governor will be the beneficiary. So my question is, how do you intend to, if you get into, if and when you get into the state house, to maintain this level of trust that you're currently building in people that believe in you? Thank you.
Of course, there should be periodic reports of what we do. Open for wide criticism. If people who do not listen to advice, they always go astray. We'll be open to challenge, open to criticism, and that will help us to direct us in the right path. We will be open, we will consult, we will listen, we have good, but at the end of the day, we will still be responsible for our action and inaction. But for sure, we will reach out. We will reach out. We will have periodic reports of where we are headed, and how to get there. And there will be some sanctions, measurements, performance measurements, which will show us whether we are on the right track, whether we are missing it, and why we are missing it. We will be open to corrections, because as an accountant, I don't know, I can't claim to know everything. There are experts that will bring in to help us. But our problem will be solved by Anambra people who understand the peculiarities of our problem. Not only those alone who can get it from internet, copy it and paste, but those who understand the peculiarities and then remodel the approaches out there to fit into what works for us in Anambra. We'll be open, we will consult, and we'll take corrections. That will build the confidence they need to continue to trust and work with us.
All right, thank you, sir. Ben, okay, you raised up your hand some time ago. I don't know whether you still want to ask a question. If you do, please unmute yourself while we call on Sir Ikem Ibodike to also unmute himself to ask his question.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. And good evening, Reverend.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, one of the uphill tasks facing your ambition to become the governor of Anambra State is the platform you're coming out from. And for people here, it's easy to understand you, but you know, this election, I think it will be determined by the grassroots. Do you have any plan of, you know, reaching out to all the grassroots, you know, because people who make most noise are the ones, you know, people hear about, you know. So do you have plans to reach out to the core grassroots, you know, in Anambra State to sell yourself, because you're very, very marketable. You know, your personality, your qualification, you know, your ideas, you're very, very marketable. But does the grassroots, do they know you? Do they know you? Is there any effort towards that direction? Thank you.
Of course, the grassroots, do they know me? Of course, yes. But the knowledge of me will continue to increase with every passing day. By Monday, of course, I will engage on tour of every local government area. But that's before that. Now, that brings the issue of stakeholders. There are opinion influencers in every local government. Those who think like me, whose cognitive map is for the good of their people. And people like you too, go out there and say Reverend Okonkwo to the people. And don't forget, I came from a church, a communion, the Anglican church. That is enough constituency They may not listen to other people, but I'm well respected in that communion. And I tell you that communion, it is second largest voting capacity in Anambra State. But that's by the way. We go through, because I joined there about 8 months ago. Our people are sharp, they are wiser now. They are, because they've been deceived for a long time. They now think outside the box. They look beyond the name and they look for somebody who can work for them, who can deliver to them the dividends of democracy. And here is the man.
We thank you. Sir Ikemi Bodike, please.
Good evening, everyone. I want to appreciate the Reverend Godwin Okonkwo for offering himself for governance in Anambra State. My question is just one and very simple. I understand that APC has about 14 candidates, and I think PDP has more, and then other parties. And I have followed this program and found that a good number of them are also well endowed. My question is simple. What does Reverend Okonkwo think he has that others don't have that will make people to prefer him to this large other number of people who are offering themselves? Thank you.
You know, I think I said it before. I said that competence without character does not add much value. But competence and character produces good value. I say that I have the capacity, I have the experience, I have the character, and more importantly, I have the courage. I have the courage to do the right thing. Go back to where I'm coming from. It's open. Do a due diligence and see who is Mr. Okonkwo, Reverend Okonkwo. I worked in major strategic places that people don't come out. But even in the midst of all that, I can stand and say, no, I will not do this. A man must be known for something. In NPC, they call me GOC. It's for who I am, for firmness of my decisions. I take responsibility for my actions. I'm open to advice, but that doesn't absolve me from responsibility for what I do, what I don't do. And I'm the person who covers my head first before the pikin I carry for my back. Even when I was in NPC, I follow my professional calling, cover my head first before NPC, because it's me that will go to jail, not anybody on my behalf. And that's what I bring to the table. I have the courage to do the right thing. It's been tested.
Well, thank you, Reverend Godwin Chukwuma Okonkwo, for being with us tonight. I think Odera, did you raise up your hand and put it down? Otherwise, we'll be coming to a close of this very interesting, it's up going to 80 minutes time of asking very probing questions of the APC Governorship Aspirant for Anambra State. Do you want to ask questions? Otherwise, Reverend Godwin Okonkwo, thank you very much. I have my last question that I'll ask before we call it a day. You spoke about low middle school enrollment and how you intend to tackle the question. How do you intend to make politics attractive to the Anambra person? I'm asking because if truth be told, Anambra always would, in my opinion, have one of the lowest voter turnout in the country. On election day, people will just be out drinking bottles of beer, eating their issue, or playing football. People tend to think of politics as they and not us. So how do you intend to increase political participation for the Anambra person?
Well, first of all, I will show them that politics is not just for the nobodies in the society. I will do what I say I will do. I think our people should even have learned some lessons. During the past presidential election, and Anambra gave, I think, 8%. That's what they contributed. And I can tell you, part of what you are suffering is from because of that. Nobody can deceive you. You must sow to do what? To reap. It's a game of numbers. You must participate to change what you don't like. If you stay, just like I'm coming, if I stay in the altar and continue praying, I may not be able to change what I observe at the inefficiencies of the system. We must participate. And the is a question of the winner to some people takes all. That's how some people see it. So I will do what I say I will do. If there's any reason I wouldn't do that, I will come back to people that sent me and explain why it should not be done the way I said it should be done, given the prevailing circumstances. When you earn their trust, you begin to change their perception about politicians, and they will get more involved.
All right, so you see it basically as a problem of trust between the leaders and the governed.
Benny.
Thank you very much. Okay, Odera, do you want to ask your question now, or we allow our guests to carry on with this very, I think I muted you. Please unmute yourself. I thought I muted you when you were just about to unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself again. Odera, please go ahead. Good.
All right. Thank you so much, Reverend Okonkwo. My name is Odira Wankwa. I will never Sunday Club, of course. Yeah. I know you. I know what you have done. I know what you stand for. But I want to ask you, one of the biggest issues that developing nations have is that people who are in government do not understand the concept of responsibility, accountability, and consequences. That is the tripod of what helps governance world over to succeed. People who are in government in this country are not there to make money. When they go and take up responsibilities, they also take up accountabilities, knowing that if anything goes wrong, they are going to face the consequences. This concept is alien in Nigeria, be it at the federal level, be it at the state level. My question to you would be, how would you ensure that amongst yourself, if you happen to occupy the seat at Agoka, which I think you will, and if you appoint your cabinet, how would you ensure that whoever you bestow any level of responsibility on, that they should also, in a very visible way, be accountable and also be ready to face consequences? I'm a strong believer that the problem we have in Nigeria today is not with the populace, it is with governance. I believe that Nigerians are good followers, and Nigerians are also very smart people, that if people in government actually demonstrate these things that I'm telling you, the populace will follow. So I go back to my question, how would you ensure responsibilities, accountabilities, and consequences in your governance?
Of course, if you joined us ab initio, I've said several times that I'll be responsible for my actions and inactions. In the process of governance, there is a guideline. There are laws governing the process of government in anything. Anybody coming in as a commissioner, there's modus operandi within which we operate. There's what they call a financial plan of what should be done. What happens that when some of us who are in position of leadership soil our hands, we will not be bold to sanction whoever has done wrong in the system. I will do my best, God, so help me God, not to soil my hand. So I can, with all boldness, sanction whoever betrays the trust reposed in him. And that will be a good lesson to others to follow. That's all you need.
Madam Minister, let me ask a follow-up. Let me ask a follow-up question on this. Thank you. Sorry for this interruption. In my life, I have not seen a governor of Anambra State probe its predecessor in Anambra State. And yet we see that we say this governor did this, people steal money. Why haven't any governor had the courage to probe his predecessor? And will you now do that if you see that there is a cause for concern regarding how the previous governors before you, not just the last one, the previous governors had handled their responsibilities?
Now, I don't work on hearsay. I don't work on rumors. If along the course of my duty, and I come across anything that looks shoddy, I'll probe to the bottom. Do you understand? I won't work on what is in pages of newspapers, rumors or hearsay. But if in the course of my job as the new governor, I run into anything that is questionable, I'll probe it to the bottom. And if it's proven beyond reasonable doubt that there should be sanctions, the appropriate agencies will take their course.
Before we round up,
can I ask you a follow-up question?
All right, just one, please, so that we leave.
Just one, yes. Just one, please. So, Reverend, what I'm gonna say is a question, is also a suggestion. I see you occupying that seat at Agoka. Would it be possible that when you sit with your cabinet and draw your strategic plans, would it be possible that for every single portfolio that you have, that people lay down goals of what they are supposed to do? Would it be possible that if those sort of meetings hold, that these goals are made public? Would it also be possible that on monthly or bi-monthly basis that you could do rounding? Here in the US, that's exactly what we do. I'm a pediatric intensivist. I work for a hospital that does exactly what I'm telling you. That in every month or every 2 months, you do some rounding with your cabinet, and with these publicly available goals that are set, you begin to check off what is it that you've been able to achieve. Let's say a commissioner for works. Everybody in Anambra knows that it's been publicly made that these are what I expect my commissioner for works to do in a year. And if you're doing your rounding monthly by monthly, we begin to look at milestones. This is what this man has been able to achieve over this time. These are the things that he has not been able to achieve. And it's going to be public so that people know that ab initio, that we've set these goals for these government functionaries. These are the ones that they have been able to do. These are the ones that they have not been able to do. And by doing that, it goes back to what I said earlier. People would know that I'm not just coming up to assume this position, but I've come up to assume this position knowing that I have milestones to meet. And if I don't meet them, there are consequences. But what I'm telling you is going to be a bold idea, but I think that it should be publicly available so that the populace follows the milestones that your government functionaries will pick up. I think that if we do that, maybe the business of governance would be open and people will be responsible and accountable to whatever they're asked to do. This is just a question and a suggestion, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I agree entirely with you. There must be a broad goal or objective from which others sub will dovetail. If anybody is going there without a goal, it's just like a globetrotting fool trying to cross the Sahara Desert on a pedal bicycle without a compass. The goal is the basis of which the public will measure our performance and us. If there's no basis of measuring how you are doing, internal check and balances, of course, we'll go astray. I've said before that we publish periodically our performance. We'll be open. We'll accept criticisms from everyone, and that will guide and improve. There's always room for improvement. Nobody knows it all. It's only when people sit back and don't listen to anybody that they make mistakes. Before they know it, 4 years is gone. And they are still clueless of what we have to start from. No, this state belongs to all of us. It's not a one-man show. If you make it a one-man show, then you make mistakes, and you alone, if you eat alone, you die alone. So we'll be open, we'll be accountable. Of course, we'll be, the goals will be set out, and milestone, toll gates will be set, based on which we measure our own performance. And the people will measure up and criticize us and give honest, objective advice on how to take the state to this promised land. Nobody, I don't have the custodian of all knowledge or wisdom. So we'll be open, we'll be accountable, we'll be transparent. We'll set up yardsticks for measurement of our performance, both by us and by the public. It will be in the open, and God will help us to do.
All right, on this point, we remind our listeners that we will have the next 30 minutes after this program to do a feedback forum to review what we have had tonight when our guests may have left. Thank you very much, Reverend Godwin Chukwuma Okonkwo, for spending more than 90 minutes now so far with us in this program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And we wish you the best in